There are countless teachers that I love and respect, and I can't stand their unions. The editorial board for the Wall Street Journal put out a story about the Chicago teachers unions and their renegotiations despite the horrible outcomes of their students. Just to set up the context of this, data shows that in 2022, Chicago black 8th graders were proficient in reading at a 9% rate. Not 90, not 19, 9% of Chicago's black 8th graders were proficient in reading. And proficiency in math was 4%. 9% and 4% for Chicago's black 8th graders. That is the context in which the teachers' unions is negotiating higher rates of pay, because of course they deserve it. Now, the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, Stacey Davis Gates, has been asked to address the disastrous math scores and reading scores that Chicago students have, and why should they be getting such a fantastic raise for their salaries. She did an interview with a Chicago radio station in which she was asked to respond to the critics who said the reading levels and the math levels aren't at grade level. Her answer, says the Wall Street Journal, the tests are racist, so they should be ignored. Okay, of course it is. Of course. The only reason that the proficiency level of black students in the Chicago area are so dismal is because the tests are racist. She said this, and I quote, "The way in which we think about learning and think about achievement is really and truly based on testing, which, at best, is junk science rooted in white supremacy." Okay. All right, fine, whatever. We're going down the racist white supremacy rabbit hole. She went on to say this: if you have another hour, I can get into why standardized tests are born out of the eugenics movement, and the eugenics movement has always sought to see black people as inferior to those who are non-black. You can't test black children with an instrument that was born to prove their inferiority. Oh my gosh. The audacity of this lady to assume or to think, to believe, and the thing is, I don't actually think she believes this. I think she's a massive cynic. But to say that testing is racist and was formed because they're trying to prove the inferior. So you're thinking that the only thing that testing does is shows that black students are inferior? That's the whole reason that it was designed? That's one of the more racist things I've ever heard. Not to mention, given the fact that the school system is set up the way it is, much to the effect of the teachers' unions bullying the school district, that black kids are performing at such a bad level, don't you think that that is the more racist system going on there? So what you're saying is kids that go through the entirety of the Chicago public school, get out when they're 18 years old, and then try to have to survive not being able to read or do simple math, a lot of those kids being black, you don't think that's more racist than just saying, yeah, we've got to work on this and get better at this? But no, that's not the point of this lady, who is, again, the president of the Chicago Teachers Union. Fortunately, the Wall Street Journal goes on to report a bunch of people called into the radio station and said, we're not buying this. This is BS, and she knows it, which, of course, is true. But this is all in the context of the teachers demanding new wages. Just to keep in mind, the Chicago Teachers Union was a top donor to Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson's campaign, and are negotiating for an increase of 9% annually, as well as initiatives in new housing and environmental initiatives going into the schools. If the contract is approved, it could add an average $51,000 in additional pay per teacher by 2028, according to the Illinois Policy Institute. In other words, the teachers and the teachers union that has presided over Chicago black 8th graders performing at a 9% reading level and a 4% math level, those people are going to get a $51,000 a year raise on average by 2028 with this new contract. and that's just totally fine. And the only reason that the students are so below proficiency is because testing is racist. How? If you don't understand why saying that is racist in and of itself, I don't know what there is to do to help you. If you look at minorities as a whole and effectively say, which is what you're saying, you can't do this because of your skin color for some reason, that is the very definition of what it means to be racist. What's the age-old adage of political rhetoric? Always accuse your opponent of that which you are doing yourself. This is a classic example, Miss Gates, of how you calling other people racist to cover up the effectively continuation of racist policy. If you look at the standards of how things have worked out, in order to cover up the horribly inefficient and disservice that you're doing to the black community by calling the system itself racist, is in fact racist. Bunch of loops of racism going on in here, and I hope people can keep that straight. The idea that you're trying to perpetuate a system that leads to such bad outcomes for black students, that's the actual racism. You don't get to just call tests racist and say that they're only designed to prove the inferiority. No, dude, that in itself is racist. Accuse your opponents of that which you are doing. It is a strategy as old as time, and cynics like this, who are effectively and actively hurting minority communities, should not be taken seriously or given any power whatsoever.